Zac Clark, thanks so much for being here. One of my closest allies in the whole world. I'm so proud to be your friend and happy that you came here. I love you. I appreciate everything that you do. One of the true sober warriors out there living it, not just talking about recovery, but we'll get into your whole journey about how and why you started release recovery. And it's an incredible story. But thanks for being here.
Thank you, bro. The circle gets tighter and you're in it, so that's all I need to know.
Appreciate you, brother. So let's start with this is an awesome story, by the way, guys. Zach is recovered hardcore drug addict. In terms of scoring drug addicts, he was definitely a 10 for aggressiveness. And when you hear the story of how he transformed himself from where he was to where he is now, a leader in the recovery community, I think it's going to inspire and motivate a lot of people. But let's talk about childhood and what you think led to your addiction and I hesitate to say downfall, but ultimately we all have to get knocked down occasionally.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important for me to say my childhood was fine, and I've seen a lot of people that try to manufacture something that happened in their childhood as a reason for why they ended up, with a needle in their arm like I did. But for me, my parents are still happily married. I'm one of 5 kids. I don't know. I just think growing up, I was a sensitive kid. Like I was an emotional kid. I cared. But there was nothing that I can point to that, is evidence that I should have ended up the way I ended up.
And I think that that's important for a lot of people to hear is that you hear about people falling into addiction and in a lot of cases, rightfully so, but you immediately want to think about what was missing in his or her life. Like, how are they neglected as a child? And we like to use that almost as a crutch. Like, well, this happened to me. And you and I have talked about this before, but just as we go along here, I think it's worth mentioning that, like, the most traumatic thing that ever happened to you is the most traumatic thing. It doesn't have to always be like some like hardcore sexual abuse. It can be being bullied. It can be feeling uncomfortable in your own skin. Everyone is on their own journey, and you can never compare yourself to other people. That's why I wanted to just highlight the fact that you have a great relationship with your parents. Matter of fact, when I hear you talk about your parents, there's like a tinge of jealousy with me. I'm like, I want to have that relationship with my parents, and I hope that
They're
my
the
kids
best.
feel that way, the way you feel about your parents. I hope my kids feel that way about me. So how old were you when you started using drugs?
Real quick on the point you just made. I mean, I think it's important to say and give people permission for their problems to be their problems. I mean, that's like we grew up in a world where we're staring at our screens all day and comparing out. And for me, I have problems. They might not look like your problems, and that's okay. And then on the point on trauma is like I heard this great definition about a year ago, and it really opened my eyes. It's something that should have happened to you that didn't, or something that shouldn't have happened to you that did. And that's a really simple way for me to break down trauma. And as that word continues to work its way into mainstream media, I think we all need to kind of grasp what trauma really is. But in terms of my drug use, man, I mean, I remember, I tell the story. So in high school, $20, right? A $20 bill, which does not today, would get you a 12-pack of Natural Light, a flask of Captain Morgan, and a 6-pack of Yinling Lager, which was one of the beers that were up by me in PA. And I would give my $20 to an upperclassman on a Tuesday, and I would wait till Friday when he would go to the beer store. He had the fake ID, and then he would pull down into the parking lot and pop his trunk, and you would see all the beer that all the high school kids were picking up, and you'd go into the trunk and you'd grab your little stash and you'd run off into the woods and hide it. And I just remember there's this feeling you get that I know when you cop drugs. When your drug dealer responds and you have another high coming, you get that relief.
To me, that's the best. That's almost the best part of the high.
Right.
Because then I'm like, then I start, certainly when I realized I was, behaving like a complete loser and an addict, which takes a little while to come to that realization because you're in denial. But nothing was greater than the feeling of knowing it's coming, but it would always be offset later in my journey of like, what am I doing? I know this is wrong, but that voice telling me I was wrong was like 49% of as loud as the voice like, no, this is going to be sick. And it would be like, from the moment where I knew it was coming till the moment that the most euphoric part of the high wore off was just bookended by misery and discomfort
Right.
and depression.
So that's a long way of saying I should have known back then that I had this association and this feeling, just knowing that another drunk was coming. I started drinking in middle school, and then high school was very much just like dazed and confused kind of experience. We thought we were straight out of the 1970s. We would wear tie-dye shirts and take bong hits and do well in sports and school so that no one could tell us, not to do what we were doing. And it was a blast, like I'm not going to lie to you, running out to the woods, rolling the keg out to the woods, belting out the classic rock songs. I love to party, and I love to party from the first time I had that experience with alcohol.
That's the one thing about you that I appreciate and also sympathize with is you're incredibly hard on yourself to think like I should have seen this coming as a 15, 16-year-old kid. Like who the
Right.
fuck's going to see that coming? I mean, you and I have that in common. We're like very at times self-deprecating and quick to take responsibility. Because like I think I told you before, anytime I have a dispute with my wife, with my kids, ultimately I end up asking myself, what did I do to deserve this? Which of my behaviors caused this? Because ultimately we can only control ourselves. So I would just say,
That's one of the confusing parts about recovery, right? Is because we try to look at our side of the street, we try to take accountability for our actions, and I'm actually hearing you say that is I'm grateful for it because I'm starting to learn to take a little bit of my power back, and understand that like you might get screwed over, you might get hurt, and that's okay, so.
I always like to think like, anyone can F you once. But after once, I prefer to do the effing. I like you learn your lesson. If you're in a relationship where you have things going on in your life where you don't think you're being treated accordingly, like you're in control of this. You can change your station in life whenever you want. It might not be easy, but ultimately that first step is always the hardest, just like getting sober. So you're drinking in high school, kind of like the typical, I don't know about the rest of the country, but certainly in the Northeast. And one of the things that I've noticed with my own kids, my daughter is 15, I've never seen nor heard of any of the kids at her school ever drinking. I've asked the other parents, do these kids have parties? Do they drink? Like, what are they doing? They're like, no, I think some of them smoke and use edibles and stuff, but I don't know of any of them drinking at all. Like, I haven't even heard of one incident. Yeah.
It's changing. I mean, kids today there's so many drugs out there that are manufactured that you can almost get over the counter. I mean, even you look at marijuana, how accessible it is. It's not, we had to work really hard to get our stash back then. This is the late 90s, early 2000s. You had to find a kid with a fake ID and scrounge your money to get, like, it was real work to get a drunk on. And now you walk into a smoke shop at 15 years old and they don't give a fuck. They're going to serve you whatever you want.
Including kratom, which we've talked about, which I think is one of the most dangerous things happening right now, because not just for the kratom abuse itself, but I think that can easily serve as a gateway drug to harder opioids and heroin and fentanyl, which can be deadly now. I mean, you just don't know what's in half of the stuff that people are buying on the street, but we'll get into all that. So where'd you go to college?
I went to York College, Pennsylvania. So I grew up in South Jersey. I went to a smaller, public school in South Jersey. And then, I was a three-sport athlete, so football, baseball, basketball. And the thing I say about my relationship with my father, he loved that I played baseball, right? And so I don't know if he did this consciously, but he was going to do everything in his power to make sure that I played college baseball because he didn't want me to stop playing.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself, do I really want to do this, or do I want to go to a big school and just party my ass off?
Yeah.
And I made the right decision, I think, which was I went to a small school out in Pennsylvania called York College, Pennsylvania, and I played baseball for 4 years. And again, it was as long as I play baseball and have the girlfriend and the grades are okay, I'm going to drink how I want to drink.
Yeah.
That's it.
Hey guys, want to talk to you quickly about Ketone IQ, my favorite energy source. Ketone IQ, if you don't know, is a fast-acting source of energy. I prefer it with the caffeine. It's like a double whammy. It provides fast-acting energy, but doesn't give you the same crash like caffeine or the jitters. This stuff is used by the majority of the pro peloton at the Tour of France. And listen, if it didn't work and wasn't backed by science, those guys wouldn't use it. I've been loving this stuff. I've been taking it for the last couple years. I'm running like 70 to 80 miles a week at 54 years old, and every single one of my runs is fueled by Ketone IQ. Give them a shot. Go to ketone.com. Use the promo code RIDEOUT to save some money. Let me know what you think. I think you're going to love it. Boom. And at what point was it during college where you first started to experiment with harder drugs, cocaine, opioids?
Yeah, so the opiates didn't come until later after college, after a brain surgery, which I'm assuming we'll get to. I mean, in college, it was full throttle on the booze, and then anything that was going to help me drink more. So yes, cocaine, Adderall, Ritalin, whatever was going to give me that kind of superpower to stay up later and drink more and remember some of the shit that I was doing was going to be in play. And the thing I remember most about college is it was probably junior year, and I was talking to one of my buddies, and I was explaining how I didn't remember something from the night before. And he kind of said, like, how often does that happen to you? I said, well, I don't know, every time I drink, like full throttle every time. He goes, I remember everything every time I drink. And it was this light bulb moment where, I might be doing this thing differently than my peers. And that was the first time I think internally I questioned my alcohol usage. And then the next thought was, okay, there's drugs that can help me not black out. So
I think it's an individual thing, because I had friends also that blacked out drunk. We would drink the same amount, but at some point they'd flip a switch where they'd black out. Whereas if I drank that much, I would be sick before I blacked out. Like my body couldn't process the alcohol like they could, or metabolize it. But there were definitely the group of kids that were blacked out where you would be like, dude, are you on this planet? What are you doing? Yeah. So you introduced to cocaine, and then where'd you go from after college? You go to start working in New York?
Yeah, the first job. So it's important to say, I graduated in 4 years. It's 2006, right? So the world is what it is. I moved back home really to South Jersey, so like right over the bridge from Philadelphia, and I get my first job, which is as a recruiter. And what I learned very quickly in that first job is, one, whatever it was at the time, a $30,000 or $40,000 salary felt like $1 million.
Yeah.
Money in the bank, drugs to buy, no rules, living on my own. And I also very quickly learned who in the office was going to drink and drug the way that I like to. And so I was there for a couple years doing my thing, drinking, driving, unfortunately, doing drugs, kind of like utilizing cocaine more and more to get through the week. And then the big pivotal moment for me is Memorial Day of 2008, I was packing my car to go down the shore with my friends, the Jersey Shore. And I had not felt well. And it was almost like if I closed my eyes, I would see kaleidoscopes, and no one believed me that I wasn't feeling well because they thought I was just hungover. My parents, my friends, my family, they're like, you're just a mess, like suck it up kind of thing. Which I had this intuitive thought, and I was like, no, dude, there's something wrong with me. And I drove myself to this little x-ray place. I'll never forget, this woman comes back from kind of reading my scan or whatever she had done that day. And she said, sir, we're calling an ambulance. Because she had seen something, a tumor, and if we didn't get to it soon, I was going to be a dead man. So within 24 hours, I'm at University of Penn Hospital getting this tumor cut out of my head as a 24, 25-year-old kid. And at the time, there's no awareness around the opioid epidemic. There's no therapy. There's no one talking to you about what it means to get surgery, what it means to have a near-death experience, what it means to have these opioids introduced into your life. And so, the surgery went well, and I've never been healthier. And the thing that I left that hospital with was a raging opioid addiction.
And what they prescribe?
So they were definitely pumping me with Dilaudid, which is basically, in my assessment, having done both, like legal heroin.
Yep.
That's the thing that I think is funny about hospitals. It's people will say, oh, you used IV heroin? And I say, how do you think they're putting drugs into almost every patient in the country right now? intravenously.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not this far-fetched thing because it works better.
Yeah.
So if I'm a drug addict and I want something to work better, of course I'm going to shove it into my arm rather than in my mouth. Like, it makes sense to me, but people want to stigmatize it and act like it's so gnarly because I'm doing it, you know, in my bedroom and not in a hospital bed. But anyway, I digress. Yeah. So and then I left with a litany of kind of your morphines, your Dilaudid in pill form. And when those ran out, I remember feeling like I had lost something, and I took to the streets. You know, I found a guy that was selling them, and I was off to the races. I didn't really go another day without some form of opioid until I, you know, get sober.
Had you tried anything before? Like, before I really became a raging drug addict, like, my friends had pills here and there and we'd take them when we had them, but no one was like, we weren't seeking them out.
So you get your wisdom teeth out, you get a perk 5, you get a perk 10, you kind of take them, maybe you get sick, maybe you don't. I had been introduced to painkillers, of course. You know, I was a young guy kind of running around bars and whatever in this country, and so I had tried them, but never to the degree that I was introduced to them in that hospital.
Yeah.
That consistently and that really that pure.
Yeah. That's the thing with drug addicts. They're like incredibly resourceful. Like, you could tell if someone gives you a drug you like immediately, you know everything about it, where to get more. And that feeling of being cut off from the legal supply is devastating. It's not surprising that so many people turn to the street. But when you did that, like, you had obviously been using drugs. So you had some street sense. Like, what did you start buying? Like Percocet, OxyContin?
So yeah, I mean, like, look, I'm laughing at your comment there too, because it's like that's 100% right. If I know I got a good bag from the guy on this corner, like, I'm gonna go back to that well time and time again until, you know, his stash changes. And it's the same thing like with running today. If I have a good run and I know like what I ate before that run, I'm gonna try and like dial that back up time and time again. I think it's just the mind of the addict. So here's the timeline. I get out of the hospital from the surgery in 2008.
How long were you in the hospital?
It had to be close to 20 days.
Holy shit!
I mean,
20 days.
15. I mean, like I
thought you were gonna say 1 or 2.
No. I mean, they took this thing out of the back of my head. You know, you're in ICU for a few days, and then, you know, you're doing the occupational therapy, up one step, down one step. It was right in my hypothalamus, so it affected my balance, my thought,
so they had
my
to
memory.
Go inside of your skull. So
Yeah,
they had to cut
I mean,
through
that's
the bone.
like if you see like right here.
Oh yeah.
Dent in the back of my head, which, you know, people will be, my barbers, whenever I change barbers, they're always like scared to ask. I'm like, dude, you should see the other guy.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't go home. I didn't go home for a while.
Damn.
Yeah, it was, I mean, brain surgery.
I know. I had no idea it was that invasive.
And medicine wasn't what it is today, right? And so that's 2008. I get out of the hospital. I propose to the girl that I'm dating because she stuck by, you know, the whole thing.
Yeah.
June of 2009, I get married.
Does she know that you're using drugs to the extent you are?
No, she doesn't know that I'm using drugs
At all?
She finds out after we get married.
Okay.
She finds out, but no idea. I was going to protect that with my life.
Yeah.
You know how it is.
Oh, no, we have that in common because people always ask me, like, your wife didn't know you were on drugs for the first 2 or 3 years you knew her? And I was like, she only knew me on drugs. So to her, I was just like kind of irrational, like,
well, and
strange guy.
And the thing is, you don't go from zero to like heroin addict. You go from zero to first using opioids, and you get the energy boost, you get the focus, you get the creativity, your mind kind of expands, you're better at work. She was probably pumped.
You can't imagine doing anything at 100% without the drugs.
Right.
Which is like the why they're so dangerous, because it's very difficult. When people tell me they tried Percocet and got sick the first time and hate them, I'm like, you're so lucky. Because, you know, when you take them and have the feeling I had of like, oh my God, this is what's been missing in my life. I'm operating at a whole different level right now, until you're not, you know?
Yeah, that was not my experience. So...
I wasn't mixing the drugs though. I wouldn't drink. I would just go home, take those pills, and be rocking.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was a walking pharmacy project at all times. So married to June of 2009. I'm in rehab for the first time by October, November of 2010.
Okay. So you do about a year of marriage and abuse, and then you're like, oh my God.
And the story goes, like, my mom was having a glass of wine with my then wife at a bar in my hometown, and one of my friends basically said to them, Zach needs help. So they came home that night. I was sitting on the couch and I very quickly kind of drove myself to rehab because I wanted to avoid all the shit. Stayed there for 28 days and was high within like a week of getting out of there. You know, like just crazy.
That is crazy because
But
normally you come out of those experiences feeling like, I'm going to do this.
yeah, I think it takes what it takes. And that's why when I get these messages from people that say my husband, wife, brother, sister's been to rehab 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 times, I say, if it was cancer, would you give up?
Yeah.
Would you stop treating them? Would you lose the hope? You got to hang in there with these people. It's the same shit with behavioral health care, with addiction, with mental health. You never know when it's gonna stick.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I do want to mention, and we'll talk about release recovery, your facilities in the tri-state and now down in Austin, Texas. The one thing that I love about you is because I've put out messages and I've worked with release in terms of helping to promote and get the word out there. And when people DM me asking for help and I connect them with you, no matter where and when it is, I'm telling you, if it's Saturday night, Sunday afternoon, whatever the day and time, you always respond and take a personal interest right away in a way that like you could never fake your way through this. Like you could never pretend to be this on top of things all the time. And we've had multiple, it's funny because so many people reach out and it's crazy how low the percentages are of people that actually follow up when they handed everything. Yep. They'll reach out, tell me they need help. I immediately connect you, bring you into the chat, and they're full of piss and vinegar until they get sober. Then they get high again, and then they're like either too embarrassed or too reluctant to take the next step.
Yeah, I mean, like I always pay attention to the timestamp on those messages, and it's because I've been there.
Yeah.
You know, it's because I've been there, and I know that if someone is reaching out for help, to you, to me, whoever it is, that might be the one time in their life where they are brave enough and they let their guard down enough to ask for help. And if I don't respond, I am not doing, you know, my duty to the world, my promise to the world once I got sober is basically to hold on to this thing. I got to try and give it away.
I hope people listening to this get that. And like I said, we'll talk a lot about release recovery and where people can get help if they are seeing this and recognizing patterns in their own behavior that may indicate they need help. And usually I tell people, well, if you think you need help, you probably do. But with that being said, you get out of rehab and
so I go to rehab the first time. I stayed for 28 days. The rehab program was fine. I just wasn't ready. You know, I knew deep down inside that I still had reservations, that I still had some kind of research and development to do. And the one thing that was awesome in that rehab program that I'm forever grateful for is me and my wife basically signed a contract that if I was to drink or get high again, she was going to leave me. And I drank and got high again, and she left me. And
really?
she saved my life, man, because she basically said to me, and she had some coaching and some therapy, and she had gone to some Al-Anon meetings, which is like the AA for the family member, if you're not familiar. And she basically said to me, like, I love you, but I don't love this thing, this disease.
Yeah.
And I remember kind of like hearing it. What happened was early 2011, I moved back home with my dad, you know, because I have nowhere to live. She kicks me out of the house. And then, you know, for the next 8 months, Ken, it is a dark, gross, incomprehensible existence. Every day is a fist fight to get high. You know, when you're using the way that I was using, there were days where $500-$600 a day were going out to support my heroin addiction and my crack cocaine addiction and the drinking and then the gambling sometimes. I mean, it was just reckless behavior after reckless behavior, and there was no stopping it. And it was confusing to people in my life because I like kind of kept it together, you know? I kind of kept it together. But once I learned about street drugs and not having to have a drug dealer, and that I could drive into Camden, New Jersey at any time, 24/7, 365. I mean, I remember copping drugs on Christmas Day. And once I learned about that life, it was like all bets are off because I just didn't, there was nothing stopping me. You know, and so the progression started. I learned kind of about heroin in that first treatment program, and I don't blame the clinicians or the other patients. It was just, you know, other people had different addictions, and I don't get caught up in that stuff. But I do remember kind of clocking that, and then very shortly after that first treatment program, I drove into, you know, kind of a not so savory neighborhood near where I grew up, and I started asking around, and sure enough, the guy came out in the black trench coat and said, "What do you need?" And he made sure I wasn't a cop, and we were off to the races.
So when you started doing heroin, like were you with someone who said, "Hey, this is how you do heroin, you should try it," or did you just go and buy a bag of heroin and figure it out?
I think the misconception with heroin is you snort. You can snort heroin,
Right.
right? You
So
can smoke
is
heroin.
that what you did initially?
Yeah.
So you knew you could snort it, so you were like, "I'm just gonna get a bag of heroin and experiment with
Right.
it."
It's all about the reset of the progression. So if my addiction is, 2 Oxycontin, 80 milligrams a day, right? Just to use numbers, that's 160 milligrams of Oxycontin a day.
Yep.
At the time, it was basically $1 a milligram. So
Right.
that's $160
That's
that
right.
it cost me to get 2 pills. Now I'm driving in and I'm getting a bag of dope for $10. So I'm getting 16 bags for the same price of those. I'm getting 16 bags, and then if you buy a bundle, you kind of get a couple for free.
And what does a bag of heroin equate to in terms of an
I mean, you're
80
getting high. I
milligram
mean, like
Oxycontin?
depending on what you're doing. I mean, like you're getting high 1 or 2 times off of a bag, and it depends, but on the strength and how good it is and all that stuff. But definitely resetting the progression, and so it's cheaper.
Okay.
Is the main point I'm trying to make, and that was the main motivator as to why I went from pain pills to powder.
Yeah, which is the pretty typical progression. And at what point do you start shooting it? And again, how do you figure out how to do that?
I was
Someone
probably
must show
shooting
you.
it for it was a guy that I was running around with, some random guy. I mean, you start to make friends and you start to have in a very kind of poetic way. I don't know how else to say it, a romantic way. You start to make friends and community within that community. Because you're searching for drugs, you're trying to find the best drugs. You start to ask people. You're showing up on different sets. It's just like anything else in life, So I find myself in this environment, and I realized that the sniffing was not working as well. And so the next logical thing is to have someone teach me how to shoot dope. And so that lasted for probably 2 or 3 months at the end there, leading up to the day that I finally got help. And, the initial thing was so great. But then after that, I knew that I was on a train going nowhere.
What was the rock bottom moment, or was there an incident that kind of motivated you to cut the shit?
Yeah. I mean, so just to paint the picture, I mean, it's a great story, and I've told it a bunch of times, which is why I smile. But it was late August of 2011. I'm in full blown addiction. My family is completely done with me. My dad is basically living in Jersey. My mom's basically living in Florida because they're not aligned on basically how I'm living. And I had driven up to South Jersey. We have Eagles season tickets. My family was at the shore. I took off. I took our preseason tickets, probably got $10 a ticket, whatever it was, bullshit money. Went, cop drugs, ended up getting arrested that night. I go into the jail. I get out of the jail.
What'd you get arrested for?
I mean, I was basically on the side of the road scratching off lottery tickets, drinking booze, shooting drugs, and it was just a complete nightmare. I mean, I was basically parked on the side of the road having a surprise party for one, and the cops pulled up on me, and I remember I kind of knew one of the cops, and I said, "You're gonna let me out of this, right?" He said, "Zach, look in the car," and he kind of shined a flashlight, and that was the first time I had really seen how bad it was when he shined that flashlight in that car, and I said, "That's how I'm living right now." And so I got locked up. I didn't use my phone call. I got out the next morning. I walked back into Camden, New Jersey, where I was running around, and I was there for a few days. And basically what happened was I had stolen one of my dad's checks, and I made it out to myself for $5,000. I went into a PNC bank down in Camden, New Jersey. I walked in there probably about 240, 250 pounds at the time. I would take my, I would do drugs all day, and then I would take my antipsychotic meds at night, which gave you hunger, and then I would order Papa John's and hammer Papa John's. And so I was this very unhealthy, massive kind of drug addict. And I walk into this bank to cash this check. And I always say it was one of the most beautiful moments of my life, because the bank teller, and her name is Rhonda Jackson, looked at me And she had a choice in that moment. She could have called the cops. She could have told her manager that I was there, or she could have done the kind thing, like just was kind. And she picked up the phone and she called my dad. And my dad happened to answer the phone. He was at his office. She said to him, "Sir, your son is here. It does not look good. I'm going to try and hold him here as long as I can, but I suggest you get down here as soon as you possibly can." And there had been a missing persons report filed for me. My family was convinced the next phone call was going to be the call that Zach's no longer with us. And instead, my dad rushes down to the bank. He kind of like breaks into the PNC Bank, open front doors, and I'm sitting there kind of twiddling my thumbs, and he puts his arm on my arm and says, "Son, we're going home." And that was the moment. I think that was the first time I really felt God. And that was the first time I really felt a moment of clarity that I actually believed I could get sober and stay sober, because it was just clear. It was clear that that was it. And we walked out of that bank and I was in a treatment program. I mean, it's blurry. I don't know, a day or 2 days later, which was my sobriety date, August 30th of 2011, and haven't felt the need to drink or drug since.
What was it about that rehab? How long was it? And what about that one stuck, whereas the others never did?
I mean, there's a couple things, and I work in behavioral health care now. The people are everything. They told me this thing that they were going to love me until I could love myself, and that was absolutely true. I felt that. I stayed for a long time. I stayed for 4.5 months. I listened to the professionals. I was at a point in my life, and this is some of the same advice that I give to people who are trying to get sober now. At 27 years old, my life as it existed, that was my best work. All of my decisions, the culmination of my amazing decisions had gotten me to this rehab bed.
Yep.
So for the first time in my life, I'm going to take a step to the side and I'm going to listen to the professionals. I'm going to listen to the people around me. I'm not going to think that I'm the smartest guy in the room. And to this day, I don't know where I got the willingness to do that, but I thank God for it, because I see people come into our program at Release Recovery. I see people try to get sober every single day, and they take their will back and they fight this thing, and they think that they're just going to be able to run through some brick wall and figure it out. And this thing, man, addiction, behavioral health care, there's no real figuring it out. And so I was there for 4.5 months. It was an awesome program. And then I made the decision to move to New York City, which I'd been in New York City one time in my life, and I've now been there for 14 plus years.
What was calling you to New York?
I don't know, dude.
Did you have a job? Like, what do you mean you just moved to New York? You just rented an apartment and
Bro, I
set up tent in New York?
It's a great question. No one's really ever dug into this part of my story. This is where I grew up Presbyterian, right? And we went to church on Christmas and Easter.
Yeah.
What is God? I think everyone's entitled to have their own experience with God and what they believe. For me, the fact that I ended up in New York City is completely insane and could only be driven by something outside of myself, because my experience there over the last 14 plus years has been magical. And I'm supposed to be there. That's what I know. No, I moved into a little sober living house, and I stayed there for 3 months, and then, started working. I got my first job in behavioral health care, kind of collecting piss and breathalyzing people, and I fell in love with this work. I don't know why I ended up in New York. I really don't. All I know is that I made a decision to listen. And it was the best decision I ever made.
Hey guys, want to tell you quickly about Row Nutrition's NAD+, one of the greatest energy sources I've ever tried. NAD+, if you don't know, is the energy source for mitochondria. Mitochondria has been called the fuel cells of the body, so their function is critically important, and without NAD+, nothing happens. Prior to discovering Row Nutrition's liposomal NAD+, I only knew of NAD+ to be delivered via injection, and honestly, that's a bit of a pain in the neck and cost prohibitive. Row Nutrition has taken the stress out of the delivery system and made it cost effective. This stuff is awesome. I've been taking it for over a year. I'm running about 70 to 80 miles a week at 54 years old. And NAD Plus keeps me going. I take it every single day, first thing in the morning. Highly recommend it. Go to rownutrition.com. Use the promo code RIDEOUT to save some money. Again, rownutrition.com. Use the promo code RIDEOUT. Boom. So you're working at the facility. At what point do you get the inclination or the desire to start your own? And what was what was that process like?
So I moved, yeah, I mean, I got sober at 27. I'm 42 now. So it's been 15 years of hard work. We've had release recovery we're coming up on our 9-year anniversary. So pretty cool. I think I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, do my own thing, run my own shop. I wasn't opposed to doing it with whoever, but I always knew that there were things that I learned along the way that I wanted to apply to my own program. And so, got awesome experience kind of working for someone else for 5 years, learned a lot about behavioral health care, addiction. I was around the patients and the clients all day, every day. So I got to learn the behaviors. I got to see them in action. I got to understand that really every case is different. I've never seen the same case of alcoholism twice. I've never seen the same case of drug addiction twice, which is what's so confusing about the work that we do. Something I try for you, in theory, is not going to maybe work for the guy or gal sitting next to you.
Yeah.
And you tell that to a mom or a dad or a sister or a brother who's trying to get their loved one healthy, and they say, I don't understand. I say, neither do I.
Well, the one thing I'll say is everyone's journey is different, but the patterns are almost identical in a lot of ways.
True.
Which is why some of these systems and processes work, like AA. Not only does it provide all the spiritual guidance and the camaraderie, but I think in the simplest form, it gives you something to do. When I was at my worst in my addiction, I would be sitting around analyzing my thoughts all day. Is it time to get high? Should I do this? Should I do that? But if I'm busy and I'm out and about doing things, like when I did finally go to NA initially in London, when I had something to do that day and it revolved around being sober, then the focus was like, okay, let me stay straight until I get to the meeting. Then you get to the meeting, you'd have a little bit of an enthusiasm and camaraderie and responsibility to get to the next day, which again is why, back to the patterns, they say, well, take it one day at a time. It's too much to think about worrying about the whole week. And then after that, you just get from one period of the day to the next period of the day. But when you, so what you felt a calling for the space, then how did you actually get release started? Like, how'd you conceive of it and how'd you launch it?
It's a great story. I got a call from my buddy, Todd. His name is Todd Whitmer. He's worked in behavioral health care for over 50. This guy's like, I think he just celebrated his 52nd year sober. I mean, just a legend, a mentor of mine. And he had toured a property in Westchester, so about 45 minutes north of New York City. And he called me, he said, Zach, I know you're kind of looking around. I know you're trying to start something. You got to check this property out. And I went up and I drove the 45 minutes or an hour north, pulled into this driveway, which was the release house, the OG, 482 Underhill Avenue. And there were guys that were running a sober living there before, and they had experienced some unfortunate things, and they were going to leave the business, right? They were just done with it, which I totally get. So the heat was off. It was the middle of winter. I looked around, and I said, this is home. This is home. And when you talk about being an entrepreneur, then what was my next step? We bought the house. I bought the house and I burnt my whole life down. I moved out of New York City. I moved into the house and I made this thing my entire life.
How did you buy the house? Like, where'd you get the money?
I have a business partner, like there was a couple of business partners at the time, and I had just scrapped together, it was like a $1 or $1.2 million house. So, I had some money that I had saved up, and we kind of pulled our resources together and took a risk.
Yeah.
If you're, I think we had to probably put about 40% down. So a couple $100,000 each, $130,000, $140,000, so it was really like you hang a shingle.
Yep.
It was every dollar that I had, and my dad probably helped me out a little bit there, and yeah, man, it was a crazy time, and I'll never forget driving out of New York City and moving into this place and just saying, this is gonna be my life for a while. I broke up my girlfriend broke up with me because I just wasn't present in that relationship. Like everything was burnt to the ground to start this thing, and whenever someone comes to me and they want to start a business, forget whether it's in behavioral health care or not, I say, are you prepared?
That's
Are you prepared to make this your entire existence? Or do you have the money to pay people that are going to make this their entire existence?
Yeah. But even that's hard because you got to find people that care the way you care, and you never will.
Yeah. But yeah.
You have to be very involved, certainly early on.
Yeah. And from that, we, from one sober living house in Yorktown Heights, New York City, we now have 86 beds across New York City, Westchester County, Austin, Texas. We have 2 full-blown treatment centers, clinics in Westchester and in Texas. We're helping a lot of people. We have 120 something employees. I mean, it's been a wild journey, and we're not stopping. I'm pumped.
And then at what point, for those who don't know, Zac was a contestant and the winner, right, on the Bachelorette?
Yeah, I was the last guy standing, 2020. So it was 2020.
All right, so walk me through the whole process. What made you apply? How did you apply? Like, what was I want to hear all about this.
It was crazy, dude.
Super interesting to me because I didn't know you during this time. So, and I've never even seen one episode. I mean, I've never watched The Bachelor, Bachelorette, just in general. I just never appealed to me. But whenever someone mentions you and they're like, oh, he was on The Bachelorette, I'm like, I've got to go back and watch this because I got to figure it out. So,
no, it's a dating show, right? And I think what's important for me to say is that everyone's entitled to have their own experience, right? And I can say that I had just fundamentally a good experience with the show, with the producers, with just the way that everything kind of went for me. I think they respected me and I respected them, and that seems to typically work in life. And so, the story, interesting or not, I don't know. I'm 36 years old. I'm living in New York City. I am working my ass off, so there is no time for dating for women. Maybe you go on a good date and I see in a month kind of thing.
Yeah.
It just wasn't going to happen. And, COVID had kind of set in, so they had canceled kind of the season that was about to film. And my mom and my sister kind of had a conversation, and they decided that they were going to throw in my kind of application. They did not consult with me on that. And so I basically got a call from one of the producers, I don't know, in April or May of 2020, and the world is shut down, literally. And she said to me, she tried to tell me the reason why she was calling, and I said, okay, kind of like lose my number.
yeah.
This isn't for me. I'm good. But then she said something that kept me on the phone for another couple minutes, and sure enough, I went through the process, and we shipped out to Palm Springs. It was COVID, so everything was filmed in one place, and shipped out to Palm Springs in early June, and yeah, was there with 30 other guys, kind of dating the same girl, and it was an interesting experience because, I'm so friends with some of those guys, and I respect anyone that's willing to kind of do something like that, right? Like, it's a very scary thing, and I think people do it for a bunch of different reasons, which is fine. Like, it's your life. You can make the decisions that you want. For me, one of the things that came up is like this idea of like authenticity is undefeated. Like, I didn't know enough to know, so I just walked into that experience that I'm going to be myself.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be myself, and that's it, man. Yeah, I mean, ended up being the last guy there, and the relationship didn't work, and that's okay. But it was a good experience, and I got to tell my story in a very public way, which was not the intention by any stretch of the imagination, but the thing that came out of that, telling a lot. I mean, look, it was COVID. No one had shit to watch, so everyone was watching the show. The morning after the show aired, that I told my story, my phone was you talk about blowing up, and I thought it was going to be people coming at me saying, "You crackhead, you this, you drug addict." It was completely the opposite. It was messages of positivity and love and acceptance. And that really told me, no matter what, I need to use this platform that has been given to me to try to help some people. And that's been my mission since then.
Yeah, that's the one thing I have found too, is when you share your vulnerabilities and your secrets, like as they say, you're only as sick as the secrets you keep. I've never connected with more people over over vulnerability than anything else. And running, you could friggin' win the entire Boston Marathon, but if you go out and tell people that you have some shared like traumatic situation you went through, more people, that's relatable to people. Winning and doing epic shit is like, some people are just not going to relate to that because they're just not trying. So that, the first step to doing anything great is to try. But everyone can, it can relate to vulnerabilities, trauma, overcoming difficulties. And it's interesting that you had that experience. What was the rest of the cast like? Were like guys cool with each other? Was
dude,
it cutthroat?
No, it was cool, man. It was cool. I think there's a lot of energy. I mean, look, again, my experience, all the guys were good guys. All the guys were from different parts of the country and came up in different ways and had different ideas about themselves and the world, and that's cool. That's okay. Like, I don't, sure, there was some competitiveness at times. Bet your ass there is. Like, we're all there trying to work towards this thing, but at the end of the day, the ability to kind of see all the guys for who they were. And I was the only sober guy there that was never judged or held against me or anything along those lines. If anything, I think it was respected.
So you win the show, and so the Bachelorette, what was the Bachelorette's name?
Her name was Tasha.
So Tasha is the Bachelorette, and she picks you. Then what?
Yeah,
then what?
you get engaged. You're dating. I mean, like, you're dating someone, and then you end up.
You get engaged on the show.
Yes.
Is that part of something they insisted upon, or you genuinely wanted to do it?
No, look, dude, the whole thing with this experience, and I'm just going to say it for me, it was real.
Yeah.
It was real to me. That was my approach. That was going to be my approach. So anything that happened was real to me.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
So you're on the show, you're living in this like kind of like scripted environment, more or less. You get engaged.
Not scripted.
Meaning, controlled environment.
Yeah.
But now you're sent home and you're like, okay, now let's see what we're both really interested in, because life comes into play. And it's almost like
that's a fair way to say it. I mean, like, look, yeah, it's like, I mean, I think there's a couple things here. Two good people don't necessarily make a good couple.
Yep.
Right. And so whether it was meeting on a show or meeting in a bar, like, that to me is not what's important.
Right.
The important thing to me is, there was an honest effort, there was an honest shot given, and it didn't work out, and sure, was there stress from the outside world? Did it make it different than your typical just, hey, meet on a dating app or on the street relationship? Sure. But at the end of the day, I believe that kind of like everything happens for a reason.
So relationship didn't work out.
No.
Where did she live?
She was from the West Coast, but she lives in New York, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So at least that wasn't an issue.
Yeah.
When you told your story on the show, did things pick up at release?
You mean from a business perspective?
Yeah, like, people aware of it?
I think more people were definitely aware of it. 100%. I don't know if you know this, but I think that there is a subset of people who might not take someone on a reality television show seriously. So I had to be very mindful of the way that I think, presented myself to the world on social media, the way that I presented myself to the world in real life, the way that I was going to work with brands or whoever it might be, because, at the end of the day, my true passion and my true occupation is helping people.
Yeah.
And that comes with a certain level of privacy and confidentiality. And so did we lose some business because people didn't want to work with folks like myself that, maybe had this reality television label to it? Sure. I think 5 or 6 years later now, 100% it has helped us. 100% we have stayed true to our mission of helping as many people as possible. At the end of the day, I believe like your best marketing is to do a good job.
Yeah, for sure.
So we've proven that time and time again, and not everyone gets well, not everyone gets sober, and that would be a complete lie to roll it out to the world. But at the end of the day, we treat people with respect. We give them a shot. We give them the tools to recover. And, it's a long way of saying, like, yes, did the exposure help us? Sure, absolutely. I'm not going to deny that. But at the end, but after the exposure, we still need to show up and do a damn good job.
So after you bought the first house, when do you start to expand, and like what's the process there? Because I'm intrigued by how you build such an incredible business.
Yeah, so 17 we start, 19 we enter back into the city, So we open a men's transitional living and a women's transitional living in New York City. Then the city shuts down.
And transitional living, for people that aren't familiar with the recovery space, what does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, look, we operate highly structured residential environments, right? So there is your traditional sober living, which might be $200, $300, $400, $500 a month. Like you can find just a bed somewhere. Whereas we are offering case management, drug testing, all your meals cooked for you, like a very super nice environment, real accountability, real recovery coaching. You're really in a program minus the clinical. Now we have since kind of integrated our clinical services into our program, but at the time, we were not a clinical organization. So those 86 beds that I kind of mentioned earlier, we started really as a sober living, right? And we have morphed or grown into a treatment environment. So now, for example, our folks live in one of our houses, and then they are going to our clinical environment 24, 25, 15, however many hours a week, depending on the level of care that they are in, getting their treatment and then returning back to, the kind of highly structured residential. So there's things that you call the Florida model or the Minnesota model, which basically means you're living in one place and you're getting your clinical services in one place, and ultimately you're in treatment.
Whether it's my training, recovery, or work, it all depends on how I fuel myself. That's why I love Athletic Brewing Company, the nation's leading non-alcoholic brewery. Launched back in 2018, they've completely shattered expectations for how great non-alcoholic brews can taste. The stuff genuinely tastes awesome, and their NA brews aren't just for the sober. This is truly great near beer. Whether you're not drinking for a round, a day, a month, or forever, with over 25 styles brewed each year, Athletic Brewing has got something for everyone. Personally, I love the Run Wild IPA and Athletic Light. They've become part of my routine. No hangover, no compromise. So whether you're looking to buy online or in person, go to athleticbrewing.com. If you're buying online, use promo code RIDEOUT for 25% off your first order. That's athleticbrewing.com, code RIDEOUT. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. What were the difficulties and how did you figure out how to do all this? Because it's very involved. When I look at it, I'm like, my head starts to, my brain starts smoking. I'm like, how's he managing all these different processes?
It's hard work. I don't know if it wasn't a passion or if I didn't really believe that it was my purpose that I would do it. I think a lot of people see behavioral health care and think it's easy. I think you can kind of jump right into it. I think there's a real estate play, and all of those things could be true. I mean, it's a good business if you do it well. It's just like anything else in life.
Yeah.
I think for me, just going back to what I believe in business, you got to hire people that are smarter than you. My dad taught me that early on. You got to take some shots. You got to believe in yourself. I think that people get really small-minded when it comes to business. I am always going to try to make something work, especially early on, to generate revenue, to get energy going, to start to build community. You got to say yes. We have this kind of motto at the company, which is the answer is yes. What's the question? Which basically means we're going to show up, we're going to answer the bell regardless of, what's on the other line.
Yeah.
But there's real, we are essentially running a hospitality business and a healthcare business. It's hard work.
What's the most challenging aspect of it?
The people.
The patients or the clinicians?
All of it.
Yeah.
You got the families, you got the clients and patients, you got the people that work for you. They're not always a walk in the park. You have your colleagues, your referents, the people in the outside world, and it's just like anything else. Relationships are really, really, really hard, and that is why I just continue to beat the drum with our team. Is if we do a good job, everything else is going to work out. People in this space get lost in the bullshit. And we've talked about this, Ken, right? I think there's a lot of programs out there that sacrifice a good product to make a couple more bucks.
Yeah.
And my hypothesis is that you spend the money to hire the right people so you can build a program that can stand the test of time.
of all the challenges you've faced, what are the things that you've been able to do that you're most proud of, or that you like think was the most significant or important actions to help this thing succeed? Because there's plenty of businesses like we've talked about that are in your exact space, and like you would tell me, I'm buying this facility over here, and I'm like, well, what was it? It was the same exact thing. I'm like, well, why couldn't they make it work? What makes you think you can go in and change it? But to your point, it's all the people. So what are you doing differently than the people that can't make it work?
Well, there's two questions. There's one, what am I most proud of?
Yeah.
I'll start there. It's not the balance sheet. It's not the money. It's not the lives saved, which is nice. I'll tell you what I'm most proud of. This weekend, 2 release recovery employees got engaged, right? The first gal, Hannah, signed up to intern for me 5 years ago at 21 years old. Saw me on the show, wrote this like very uber professional email in. She interned for us for a summer, went back to college, and then when she landed back in New York, she reached out for a job, and she's now been working for us for a couple years. She met her now fiance at one of our run clubs, which you've been to, the Release Run Club. They both showed up there on a Monday night, started dating. Now they're engaged to get married. He is a former client of Release Recovery, so he came through our program.
Wow.
The community you build. At the end of the day, what's my legacy? This couple right here, if I didn't lay that first brick, they're not meeting, they're not falling in love, and they're not having this experience. The second guy, Chris, has worked for us for probably 3 years now, has grown into our director of admissions role. So he's really the guy on the front end talking to all the inbound kind of calls. Starts dating a young lady that was working for us as well in a, very open and honest way. They were above board with all of it, which was cool and appreciated. And, he texted me yesterday, we're texting about a case. And then he said, oh, by the way, on a personal note, I think I'm going to get engaged today. And then he sent me another note afterwards, officially engaged. And so in the span of 24 hours this past weekend, I got to experience some real legacy moments with these people who, if release was not formed, if the risk was never taken, these stories wouldn't have happened. And so it's kind of this generational impact that's created through this business that I built. That's what's most important to me. Mm-hmm. And the second question, just around what makes us better, we show up. I still show up. Our leadership team still shows up. We try to keep it really simple. This work is not rocket science. You got to love your patients. You got to love your families. You got to be honest with them. You got to help them understand that it's probably not going to be a straight line. But if you can communicate that in a way that they hear it and their expectations are realistic about the possible outcomes, chances are you're going to have some people that are happy with the service that was provided, and then end up being your cheerleaders and the people that really fly your flag out there in the community. And those people end up driving a lot of business because they refer their family and their friends. And we're in a human services business, and so we need to remember that the humans are the most important thing.
And I know that part of your journey, like mine, with sobriety involves endurance sports. How did you first get started with, I don't know, I guess you started with running? How did you get into running, and like what part of your sobriety journey were you on, and what role has running played?
The best, dude. I mean, it brought us together.
Yep.
Like that whole story that I just told about release, I could say for me and you. I mean, look, dude, I hated running. I fucking hated it.
Most days I do too.
I hated it. And I was in rehab, and one day I decided that I was going to go for a walk, and I went for a walk every day for a couple weeks. And then one day I said, okay, let's try to run. I started to kind of get into shape, and then moved to New York City. And the turning point for me is my first New York City marathon that I watched. I didn't know what the hell I was showing up to. And I sat there and I cried on the sidelines watching 50,000 people kind of flow by me. And it gave me the thought or the hope that I could do that too.
Yeah.
And I kind of, on that day, made the declaration that I was going to run the New York City Marathon every year from that year on. And I've been able to do it. And Initially, I think it was to prove to myself that I could do it. I then started our nonprofit in 2019, and we started raising money for folks that couldn't afford to go to treatment. So that became the thing, and that's grown, and that's been really cool. And you've been super supportive of that as well. Today, currently, I'm trying to get faster, and I'm trying to approach it like with a vigor and a seriousness that really I've learned from you and others out there. And it's the idea of what I'm sure you talk about in your book. I'm just getting into it. I was lucky enough to get an early copy, but like it starts with that idea that I can actually do this. I can do something that is hard. And at 42 years old, I'm faster than I've ever been.
Yeah.
Which still, for this drug addict's mind, is not anywhere near fast enough.
That can both be a blessing and a curse, right? You want to be able to enjoy successes along the way because ultimately, and enjoy the process because that's where we're spending most of the time. But I do the same thing. I've won races, the whole entire thing, and then think like, I should have ran much faster. And I'm like, but it was fast enough to beat everyone. But I don't know. I think that the blessing there is that you're never satisfied, which motivates you to run faster. And you should take solace in the fact that from 42 to 50 I ran faster every single year because I just stuck with it. But I also, I was just telling someone, I added up all the miles for the last 5 years, and I averaged 10.66 miles every single day for 5 years with 0 days off. And it's hard not to get better when you're showing up that much. I would never advise someone else to do what I do. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that'll be like, oh, he needs to recover and he could be better if he did this. Yeah, you know what? And if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. There's a lot of things that coulda, shoulda, woulda. This is what's worked for me. So if there's anything that you can take from that, I think that you're going to continue to run faster because I know how hard you try and how much you want it. But
it's been humbling, man.
Yeah.
I've in my life been able to have some success, but with this running thing, I haven't been able to, like this past year, I trained my ass off and I got slower.
Yeah.
And the thing that's great about running, because people ask me all the time, how do you run so much? It's like anyone can do it.
Yeah.
Lace them up and go.
No barrier to entry.
That's it. And look, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the high. I mean, the feeling I get after a good workout or a long run is good. So that's why I keep doing it.
Yeah, and that's the thing people should know. The runner's high doesn't happen while you're doing it. It's typically when you're done.
Right.
Because while I'm doing it, there's many days where I'm like in hell.
Yeah.
But that's like that expression, the road to heaven can feel like hell and the road to hell can feel like heaven. You just got to understand what is your mission, what's your goal, and like take pride in the way you execute the strategy because life is spent in the process, in the strategy. Those wins and losses are fleeting. And a lot of times the losses can be the best thing that ever happened to you. You get the shit kicked out of you, you get embarrassed, and it either motivates you to go back and like dig in and get better or quit. And the sting of quitting lasts forever. Matter of fact, quitting in the Ironman the first time I went there changed the trajectory of my whole life. I was 41 at the time and I made it to Kona and I was so excited and happy to be there that I completely forgot that you still have to show up and execute at the race, and it was going badly, and I just quit on the run for no reason other than it was hard. And as painful as that was, it changed everything in my life. It literally changed my mindset that day. I'm like, no, I'd rather die than feel like this because it felt terrible.
Yeah.
I was so embarrassed, not in front of anyone else, in front of myself,
Right.
because there was no reason to take the easy way out.
We're basically all publicly training with Strava and Instagram and all the things that are out there. You go out for a run, unless you want to hide your stats, which you can do. You're essentially showing the world each and every day if you are working or not. And that for me is actually helpful. I mean, in some way, and other people might have different thoughts on this. That's fine. For me, that's holding me accountable. I need that shit.
100%.
And so I think like you're one of the guys that I look at, man, and I just say like if he can do it, so can I. And that's really the only thought that I need.
Yeah, I have friends that have gone through Navy SEAL training and have become Navy SEALs, and I'm always like so curious, like how did you make it through? Like what was going through your mind? And multiple guys have said to me, I would just look around and say, when that guy quits, I'm gonna quit. And then if that guy quits, you find another guy. And to your point, like if I can do it, anyone can. I'm like not an exceptional athlete by any means. I played Division III football and hockey, but I wasn't like no Division school one schools were looking for me. You know what I mean? And I wanted to play sports more than anything in the world. So all that to say, the only thing I'm doing that a lot of people aren't is trying hard, like just showing up. And to your point, everything I do, I post to Strava. So it's all publicly available. If I miss a day, which is rare, people will be sending me messages like I didn't see your run today, which, you know, is both good and bad. But I take pride in that consistency and discipline, because discipline is really what sets you free. Like I saw Eliud Kipchoge one time saying that a person with discipline becomes prisoner to their emotions. Without the discipline, you tend to act on whatever emotion is acting on your psyche that day. And you know, you can wake up feeling like down in the dumps. You can be feeling jealous. You can be feeling angry. And I go through all that shit too. But the one thing that I never let it do is deviate from what I've disciplined my mind to do. Like I'm handling my first responsibility and top responsibility above everything else in the world is taking care of my own mental and physical health, because without it, I'm useless to everyone, including my family. So sometimes I have to get creative with how I mix in the workouts, and sometimes it can seem a little selfish, but if I don't do this, for better or worse, I can't be the best version of myself, because then it's hanging over my head and maybe it's another addiction. And like I've said before, it's like I like me today much more than I do of being a slave to drugs.
Yeah, I mean, I it's very simple for me, the formula, and I think as I get older, what brings me joy? I like work. I like running. I like my relationships. I like setting goals. I like business ownership. I like going to concerts. I like playing golf. I know the shit that brings me joy.
Yeah.
I couldn't answer that question for the longest time, dude. And so the fact that I now know that, and that running actually brings me probably the most joy because of the sense of accomplishment and hard work, the feeling, I this year decided, okay, I'm going to build a schedule and create time that allows me to train better. And so can I shift my mornings to say, I'm a business owner. I'm 42 years old. I've worked my fucking ass off. I deserve the right to say from 7 to 9 a.m. every morning, that's going to be my time where I train and recover and eat. Like before I rush into this day, and I'm still going to work just as hard. I'm still going to show up the way that I always do. But it's about making time in my life for me today and not feeling guilty about it. I feel guilty about this shit for no reason. If I like doing it, I should do it.
That's right. Of all the things you mentioned that bring you joy, you're not really into Philly sports, are you?
I mean, that's a love-hate, man. No, they bring me joy. I mean, look, I was the drunk 22-year-old asshole Philadelphia fan at one point in my life, and now I try to be what I am, you know, an adult that can watch a game and understand that generally I'm watching kids play a sport,
Yeah.
right? And for me to kind of go off the cuff on them is probably not fair, and I could probably help, you know, some of the people around me to understand that. But you know, it's like you hit a certain age, and I'm sure you felt this. Like I'm older than all the guys playing now.
For sure.
So for me, it's like I'd rather like strike up a conversation with them and pick their mind than trash them, you know, on sports talk radio. It's like,
I love Boston sports. I hope they win so badly, but anytime I catch myself getting too emotionally involved or invested in the success and failures of other men, I'm like, get a grip, dude. Yes, I want the Patriots to win more than anything.
Yeah.
But I also can't let them the possibility of them losing affect me negatively. And, you know, I don't want to say we all, but sports, people like us that are fanatical about our teams, like, sometimes people lose themselves in what they're watching, and I'm like, yo, you know you're not on the team, right? When you keep saying we got to do this, we got to do that. But then, of course, I'll be doing the same shit, and my wife will be like, you know you're not on the team, right?
Dude,
and I'm like, thank you for reminding me.
You got it. I'm the first guy that's going to say, this guy's so fucking annoying. And then the next day, I'm going to be the guy yelling and screaming about some shit that just doesn't matter. You know, those are the moments that I think teach me the most about this life. Like, can I truly just be who I am and not judge others and not have to understand why people are the way they are?
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Well, I'll definitely have to keep you in the loop because my friend Todd Krinsky, the CEO at Reebok, is trying to arrange an interview for me with Allen Iverson.
Dude,
That'd
he's
be a good
sick.
one.
Dude, I mean, like, buckle up. That guy's, but he's done it his way, man.
That's right.
And that's why people love him. That's why people respect him. Has he done it perfectly? Absolutely not. Allen Iverson would tell you that. He'd be the first
Yeah.
person to tell you. But he's done it honestly.
Yeah, I
You
read
know?
his book. It's really good.
Yeah,
It's like
I mean,
really all
look.
about his personal life more so than the NBA.
This idea that we need to be perfect has to be smashed.
Yes.
I mean, it's just, it's nonsense.
Yeah.
I don't want to be perfect. I want to make these mistakes and then, learn from it and get better. I appreciate you. I appreciate this. Our friendship is awesome. And it's happened because of recovery and because of running and just, I think, an ability to see each other for who we are. And that's undefeated.
Before we wrap up, let's just talk about Release Recovery Run Club. What are the details? Where can people find you?
The Run Club. So we've really kind of dialed it into marathon season. We were doing it every Monday night around the year, and it just got to be too much for me. And so we've encouraged people to latch on to other run clubs. But leading up to the marathon, we meet in Central Park every Monday night at 6:30, and it's an awesome community. We'll get anywhere from like 50 to 100 people out to run, and you don't need to be in recovery. I think the thing that's really cool about the Release Foundation, which is the nonprofit, is we have a bunch of bibs to New York, a bunch of bibs to London. We're really cementing ourselves as a name, in the charitable space around behavioral health care. And look, if I could have it my way, I would stop doing any of the for-profit work and I would just work for the nonprofit because that's just fun. You're just writing checks for people to go to treatment. You're raising money to help people that otherwise couldn't be helped. So,
How many bibs for New York?
I think we have about 120 this year, 115. We had about 115 people run this year. And then, I mean, you know how it kind of works. Like sometimes people defer to the next year. And so I think we were allotted like 105 off the rip. And then we had some people coming back that were injured or whatever like that. And, we try to raise close to $1 million each year just through the New York City Marathon. They're the best. New York Roadrunners are the best. They're the best.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The Roadrunners, they do a lot for the city of New York, and they have always...
The world.
Yeah. It's a great organization, and the fact that they accommodate those charities, because what's it cost for a bib?
I think the cost to us is like $1,000.
No, but what does a person have to raise?
$6,000.
So the way it works, if you don't know, is you commit to raising $6,000, you get a bib, you're on the hook for the $6,000.
Yeah.
Like you can either go out and raise it, or you can write a $6,000 check yourself, which is what I like. Like you have to make the commitment. You don't, you can't take it and then give a half-assed effort.
Yeah.
Like you have to write a $6,000 check. And have you had any incidents where people didn't come through with the money and then just said, I can't afford it?
You'll get some emails at the end of the year, and I think we take it case by case and try to be kind with people. If life happens, or someone loses a job, or where I don't have tolerance is if the person was like a direct kind of personal referral, or they come to your and we kind of get them a bib and then they don't fulfill their fundraising. That's kind of unfortunate. We've had that a few times, and I've had to really I know you've sent us runners over the years, which has been awesome. We really appreciate it, but I've had to kind of like step to the side because I'll just get texts from guys that know me or follow me on Instagram, or I'll get a DM and it's, hey, I love what you're doing. Do you know what we do? Like, do you tell me what we do, or do you just want the fucking bib?
So funny, dude. You can smell that coming a mile away when people are like, hey man, love what you do. And I'm like on a DM, and I'm like, this fucking guy doesn't even follow me. What could he possibly love?
Right.
Usually when I see that, I answer like, thanks, brother, not interested.
Right. Yeah.
So what's next for you on the running scene?
Well, we're doing Austin half together. You'll probably smoke it. I'm going to try to run under a 130 there, which I think I'm in shape to do. And then I'll probably run London. It's a signature event for the foundation, for Release Foundation. We have like 20 people going over to run this year. See what shape I can get in for that. I mean, I'll give it an honest effort. I'm not doing the party racing, which you made fun of me for so many years anymore. So I'm showing up and I'm giving it my all, no matter what shape I'm in. And then in the fall, I got to find something that's a little bit quicker than New York. I'll run New York, but it is not going to be my A race in the fall. Like shit's hard, man. That course is just hard.
It's very hard. I think you should run CIM in
When is
Sacramento
that?
right at the beginning of December.
I might do that, dude.
It's perfect timing with New York.
What about you? Are you marathons, high ride? Like you're all over, man.
The last year I've been writing the book, it took all my focus and energy. Like it was a lot of emotional stress, right, going through the process of writing that about my whole life and putting it out there is like very, feeling very vulnerable, but excited to see what people think. But I'm going to run Austin half marathon on Feb 15th. I'm not in very good race shape, but F it. Sometimes you just got to jump in and get your ass kicked to get motivated. And then I'll do the High Rocks World Championships in June. Again, that's a race where, things can go sideways in a hurry. It's so outside of my comfort zone. It's a lot of weightlifting, a lot of like strength movements. There's a lot of running too if you're not a runner. But if you are a runner, it's like, I wish there were more running,
Right.
It's like that expression, I'm trying to run faster than the lifters and lift more than the runners. But yeah, I'm just trying to do things that keep me motivated to stay fit because fitness has been a big part of my recovery and journey. And it's given me the opportunity to connect with people like you and this podcast and Rob Moore, who produces the show. I met him training for Ironmans. Like everything good in my life came from endurance sports and taking
awesome.
pride in your work ethic and your discipline. And since I've started training and racing, everything in my life has improved exponentially. Like, I just can't believe how many years I wasted fucking around and doing drugs and worried about the wrong things.
But you needed to do that to get to where you are today. If you didn't have that
That's
pain,
exactly
you might not
right.
be as fast as you are. I believe that.
No, you're 100% right. For people that are watching this, and hopefully there's a lot of people that are watching that, hopefully there's not a lot of people struggling, but for the people that are struggling or may feel like they're drinking a little too much, drugging a little too much, like I said, if you think you are, you probably are.
Yeah.
But for those people, how do they get in touch with you and what can they expect from release? Like, let's get granular here so people know what the next
release,
steps
we are equipped to handle any call, right? We're equipped to handle any call, and our promise to the person on the other end is that we are going to find you help. And that's a fact. Between our nonprofit organization and our for-profit organization, which the for-profit, it's important for me to say, does not fund the for-profit, right? We send people to other programs. We're going to find you a place to go, whether it's with us or someone that we've worked with and feel comfortable with. The phone is still the best way to get us, 914-588-6564. I mean, like, that's the best way to call into the main line, and our mission team is always ready to be helpful. I would say, I thought a little bit more about your question about what makes us different. I mean, we believe in people, we believe in people, and we take a very structured kind of no bullshit approach to the process while having fun and implementing some brilliant clinical minds. Our chief medical officer is a total rock star, Dr. Michael McCormick. He's sober himself. He's got a story on his hands. I mean, he was writing himself his own scripts and getting high. I mean, imagine having your own candy store every day, right? So he's come on the other side, and he's the man. But, you call us, we're going to ask some questions. We're going to run a little assessment. We're going to get a feel for who you are and what's going on. And, we're going to direct you in the direction that our experience tells us that you need to go. And again, whether that's with us or with someone else, we're going to find you the right place. I mean, we have, the website's releaserecovery.com. Obviously, you can direct message me if I'm tagged or whatever on this clip or collaborating.
We'll put all
whatever
of
it
these,
is.
we'll put all of the contact detail in the show notes. But to Zach's point, you can DM Zach, you can DM me. We will get you the help. And I think that the most important thing is making that first outreach, whether it's a phone call or a DM, and just, I don't know, to me, like with Strava for running, like once you create accountability and like tell someone like, hey, I need help. I will tell you this, if you tell either one of us you need help, you're going to be getting immediate and intense follow-up. So for better or worse. And it's amazing how many people will reach out probably while they're banged up and then they don't want to follow up or they get intimidated. But I'm telling you that all of your wildest dreams can come true if you get sober, and the chances of them happening while you're fucked up are 0 to very 0. And it's the truth. Everyone I know that's sober, no one I know who's sober ever says like, oh, what a mistake. I should have stayed fucked up. I was having so much fun. And like you said, if you're wallowing in your addiction after many years, like how much more evidence do you need that you can't handle this? Like you have an allergy to drugs and alcohol. They don't work for you.
Yeah.
It's just because someone else that you know can drink and drug and get up and go to work and like, cool, you're not them. Stop trying to emulate other bad behavior or make excuses for yourself. But yeah, nothing makes me happier than helping other people achieve their goals and like move towards a better life, because there is a better life out there. And like I said to you on your show, like if you don't like your station in life, fucking change it. The only person that can control any decisions you make is you. Like you can do this. Look at you and I are a perfect example. Like you were smoking crack and shooting heroin. I mean, what else do you need to have happen? You didn't go to prison, thank God. But I mean, same here. I mean, I'm taking like 50, 60 Percocets a day, every day for years, and functioning and waking up and feeling like I either going to get high or kill myself. And now I have a book coming out. I have pride in some of the things that I'm doing, and I have a beautiful family. And look at what the business you've created for yourself is massively
we're
impressive.
the lucky ones, man. We're the lucky ones.
Yeah, is it luck or is it just the harder I work, the luckier I get? That's it. But it's available to everyone. First step. First thing you have to do is make the call. Take the first step. Every journey starts with the first step. Well, Zach, thanks for doing this. I love you, brother.
I love you, bro.
All the contact details will be in the show notes. Thank you guys for being with us. Please do me a favor and subscribe to the show. It helps massively. And thanks for being with us. Another one down. Boom. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Please take a quick minute to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. This is a new show, so subscribing makes a huge difference. Please also take a minute to give it a review and leave a comment on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. You can also subscribe and leave a comment on YouTube. Again, this is really important for us, especially now since we're just getting started. Please also check out all of our sponsors. They make the show possible, and honestly, I love and use every single product we talk about on the show. You can learn more about me, this podcast, and also find links to purchase my upcoming memoir at theothersideofhard.com. My new book is called Everything You Want Is on the Other Side of Hard, and it comes out March 10th, available everywhere you buy books. Or again, go into theothersideofhard.com. There's multiple links there where you can find all the retailers carrying the book. Thanks a lot for being with us, and we'll see you next week.